No salvation, no escape, and no subtlety can be found in Control Freak, a Hulu original where Val is a motivational speaker that is about to embark on a worldwide tour. She has a husband, she has a great staff, and she knows that she does her best. You can do your best. All you have to do is listen to Val, and she can take you so far with her advice while you realize your full potential. And obviously, everything's going swimmingly for Val. If it wasn't for that persistent nagging feeling right in the back of her head that she just can't get rid of, she just can't get rid of it, she just can't itch it out. It burns, it burns, it burns. Yeah, Control Freak isn't really subtle from the word go, and it doesn't get any more subtle as the film goes on. This was written and directed by Shao Ungo, who did The Park. That was a film that had ideas, none of which were necessarily fleshed out, but then when they tried to flesh anything out, I was like, you know what? Maybe the 76-minute runtime is a benefit, and maybe I didn't really want to see any more, even though, again, had a couple neat little ideas. So Control Freak stars Kelly Marie Tran, and before I dive further into the review, I just want to say Kelly Marie Tran, Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, so many that were part of the cast of Star Wars Episode 7 through 9 got way too much hate, way too much goddamn hate. Kelly Marie Tran seems like a bright, bubbly, just talented actress, and it's a damn shame that she was the victim of so much goddamn bullying from a lot of Star Wars fans that seemingly didn't like the fact that more women were represented in the, series that's about space wizards with laser swords and weird creatures and everything. And man, I just want to get on the soapbox for a second and say, those fans are fucking goddamn assholes and aren't actual Star Wars fans. Space wizards. So anyway, Kelly Marie Tran has also been in The Croods. She was in Raya and the Last Dragon. And in interviews, she seems so nice. She seems so funny. And I was happy to see her get, a horror spin here. I will admit right now that once I saw who the writer-director was, I was like, okay, whatever, but everybody has to start somewhere, and the central idea of a motivational speaker that is fighting their own demons, and basically, has that persistent nagging feeling in the back of your head. And by the way, if you hate the head scratching, you're not really going to appreciate this movie. And Kelly Marie Tran is one of the positives of this particular project because she does deliver a committed performance. And I do want to say it does have a few themes that would be good for a horror film to tackle. Persistent mental illness in a family bloodline. The idea that you don't feel like you're good enough, that you feel like, every time you take a step forward, something's going to bring you back, one step forward, two steps back, whatever. You don't feel like you're going to be good enough for anybody. We all have those feelings, and that's the thing. Some horror films have tackled those well. Hereditary has tackled those well. Midsommar tackled some of those well. Fuck, Sleepaway Camp tackled some of those well. And Control Freak tries to. It just ends up being so scattershot with its very simplistic, on-the-goddamn-nose message that this film eventually wore me down. Now, maybe that was the point, but the film didn't know what it wanted to be, and also, this is 104 minutes long. And this film honestly needed to be about 84 minutes. There were sections of this where they could have cut it. And yes, there are some excellent shots. The special effects are halfway decent. There are a couple good body horror elements. And Kelly Marie Tran, once again, the highlight of this thing. Now, Miles Robbins isn't too bad. He was Dave. Dave's not here anymore, man, from the 2018 Halloween. He was also in Y2K. That wasn't a great movie. That wasn't his fault, but it wasn't a great movie. He plays Robbie. I'm Robbie. Nobody except longtime deep cut wrestling fans are going to get that. And also her Val's aunt, because, she has a Vietnamese background. Aunt Thuy, I think I said that right. Ki Shu, who was in the Joy Luck Club. I have not watched that movie in fucking years. And also, Val has an assistant named Crystal, played by Callie Johnson, who's been in the various Chicago shows, PD, Med, Fire, and possibly Space is coming up soon. The thing is the idea of a motivational speaker having these demons and having this stuff, and the manifesting, and you having to fight the stuff, not confront, like you should or whatever, but try to, like, you try to figure some stuff out, but then you're like, okay, I got a grip on this, I got away from this stuff. Don't worry, I'm doing great, You're doing amazing, sweetie. You're not doing amazing. And it's okay not to do okay. That's the one thing. That's the message that this movie probably, I guess, maybe should have tried a little bit with, even though it was a horror movie. It's okay not to be okay. But it has a few scenes that really should have been totally trimmed out. I think the chemistry between Kelly and Miles is fine, but I do kind of have questions about how this motivational speaker is supposed to able to get a worldwide tour. Whatever, I guess they're just booking anyone that they can these days. The social commentary about all the issues that I mentioned, it can get a little, I don't want to say it gets a little grating, but it gets a little bit, it doesn't even get to where it's like, okay, we're diving deep into this stuff. It all feels very surface-like. Like, it feels like it wants to dive into some of the stuff. It wants to dive deeper. Ironically, given the fact that we get an early indication that a pool is going to factor in to a few things a little bit later on, and possibly the finish of the movie. Spoiling a little bit, this will not haunt you until your dying days. But, yeah, that's basically it right there. It's on Hulu if you want to check it out. Again, Kelly Marie Tran, very good. Other than that, though, I gotta say, this is pretty much a misfire to me. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. I'll tell you why it was a misfire, by the way, because I really had to get into the spoilers section. One, Kelly Marie Tran, a very bright, attractive woman, and I'm actually really thrilled that she is in something like this. And once again, I wish that she hadn't gotten the hate that she got at all. I mean, hate is going to come for, in many forms when it comes to celebrity status. But it was outright ridiculous. So, early on, we see her holding her breath longer and longer in a pool. Gee, I wonder if that's going to, factor in. Again, subtlety, not exactly this film's strong point. And also we get flashbacks of the fact that she was in a boat with her family and her mother's dead. Her father also is part of a monastery where he is a monk with a drug addiction. And Val, basically, Val and Robbie have been together for a while. It is what it is, whatever. She keeps itching at the back of her head and stuff like that, and eventually ends up with some black goo. She ends up even filing it at one point, the nail file stuff, after her aunt works on her nails. And yeah, the black goo. And again, there's like this reminds me of Grafted in the sense that, again, this is a little more polished than Grafted. The Grafted at least leaned into the goofiness. This was just totally inconsistent. Nevertheless, there's also a theme of ants, where ants are crawling around and stuff like that. Great antagonistic stuff here. And who hasn't had a nightmare where they've ingested thousands of ants and barfed them up? Just me. Apparently just Kelly Marie Tran and nobody else in this. So, there's a talk of this demon called Sanshi that's like something that can come around during time of great suffering and pain and hunger and whatever. It could be just a manifestation of grief. It could be a manifestation of various feelings, and guilt. Like, because the father was also in the war and said that he summoned this Sanshi. Again, it needed to pick something and stick with it because it didn't really know how to fully go through with stuff. And Robbie also wants to have a kid, but Val is taking birth control because, as she says later on, something wouldn't let her have a kid. It turns out that basically the dad tries to, stop her from going down this dark path, the same path that her mother went down, because she's been looking for her birth certificate so she can go on this worldwide tour. And all this stuff's going on, and eventually the dad basically confesses, by the way, you may have thought that I tried to kill you, but no, your mother tried to kill you. And that's what it was. Your mother tried to kill you because she knew what I passed on to her and what she passed on, and what, she passed on to you. And it's a hereditary thing. Again, hereditary. Nobody catching on fire in this, unfortunately. Mourn the pity. And then he basically tells her no salvation, no escape, and Yeah, the mother probably was mentally ill, and unfortunately, that is something that, tends to get ignored when it comes to a lot of people. But yeah, she basically ends up not doing too well. She ends up cracking at a motivational speaker show, and she's doing the itching stuff. She's tried various things like tying herself down with various contraptions, but she's still finding a way to scratch her head because this demon is taking over, trying to get really inside her head, essentially. And yeah, she basically, her dad's dead. Her dad ends up dying, has ants crawling over him. She ends up basically, finally snapping and picking this thing just enough to finger her own hole. A little too hard because she ends up suffering some form of brain damage. Not too much, though, because she's fine near the end. But lots of physical rehab, which kind of totally gets taken away. Because then Robbie sticks with her. Robbie, who, by the way, had a reason not to want to stick with her. I'm not saying he was perfect, but she kind of was lying about a whole bunch of stuff. But then she drugs his food, puts him, ties him to the bed, and wants to figure this stuff out. She's trying to figure out what the demon wants. The demon wants every piece of her. Because the demon is a manifestation of this, and the voice in the back of your head, that kind of stuff. And she ends up chopping off her own hand. But then the demon's like, no hands, bash your skull against the thing. This kind of stuff. She's even before this, she was seeing her own footage talking back to her. You can't do this. You can't do this stuff. Again, you gotta pick a lane here, movie. I just feel like the movie tried to be too busy, but it was also too simplistic. So, meanwhile, she's trying to do this stuff. And by the way, I do have a question. Did Hulu feel the need to, or were they contractually obligated to themselves to put a bit of the footage of Mr. Crockett, another Hulu original that they had a little bit, or sometime last year, I think last October? It wasn't very good, unfortunately. So, the idea is she was going to, make a deal with the demon, and then she freaks out and everything, and the demon's attacking her. Good plan. Good plan, V, whatever the hell your name is, your nickname. So, yeah, she cuts off her hand, but then somehow manages to trap the demon and cut off its hand, and then she starts sawing and bashing it. But then the demon's forming. So the demon's forming and all this stuff. She's having all these flashbacks to the boat and the mother drowning and stuff like that. She's done the stuff with the pool. So what do? All kids out of the pool. By the way, Robbie somehow frees himself from being tied down and everything. That's when you need a safe word for those restraints, kids. Don't use restraints, kids. Wait until you're consenting adults. And yeah, she ends up basically holding her breath long enough and drowning the demon, drowning the guilt, drowning the voice inside her head, and then gets herself and brings her little girl self back up to absolve of everything that happened and move on from that. And even Robbie's like wondering, why is there like a little demon thing here? And then it disappears. So, a little bit later on, Robbie's taking a bath. I don't know how much time had actually passed since. She had cauterized the wound, by the way. Do want to emphasize that. And so I guess they were able to do something a little bit later on. But she basically says, "Hey, I want you to stay with me. If you don't, I understand. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I know I want to do it with you." I mean, if that's not love, I don't know what is. And oh, baby's on the way. Oh boy. Oh joy. Let's bring a goddamn kid with this. So, yeah, she does that. She wants him to stay. There's a baby coming. And then we get like a happy wrap-up ending of the mother saying, there's a lot of grief we have, a lot of stuff we have, but we can't let these bad thoughts destroy us. Which, yes. And then there's that kid, and dear God, I thought the kid in Hook looked horrible. Yeah, that was it. But she got her hand reattached. Either that's or it's in a dream, and her hand actually isn't reattached. You know what? I don't really care. I honestly found myself caring less and less about this movie as it went along, which is disappointing because I wanted to like it. It had good ideas. Kelly Marie Tran delivered a committed performance. It just was scattershot yet simplistic, and I feel that there were too many scenes that needed to be cut down. That being said, I'm sorry. I give it a 1.5 on Letterboxd. Pretty much just for Kelly Marie Tran. Everything else is just I give it an F. I mean, I don't really care if that offends anybody, but that's just me. Agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rickland, and I'll see you soon.